All right, everyone. You remember Judge Chutkan, link in the description archived, of course, the one that was gunning for Trump back in the day? The legal gadfly appointed by Barack Obama himself? Um, there's been a pivot. Judge Chutkan is now going after a different adversary, drawing fire, as predictable by many of us before, pivoting to Doge and Elon Musk, asking about all of the internal paperwork involved with trying to identify government employees and cut wasteful spending. This is not legal. But as I've explained to people, once you have a rudimentary understanding of the so-called justice system, what is legal and what is legal are somehow simultaneously two different things. You have one set of legal standards that should be abided by. But then you have courts that act with virtual impunity who take it unto themselves to give themselves limitless power and act outside of the Constitution and of the law. This is the latter case. Chutkan has absolutely no purview, even despite Attorney General's findings from several states, over Doge. Doge is a privately incepted group that has been given limited access to limited amounts of material by the President of the United States himself over agencies under which there is executive purview. It is self-evidently legal for this to happen. Effectively, you can see Doge employees as a bunch of contractors. They work with bureaus all the time. They work with sensitive information all the time. This has been happening before most of us were born, actually. So the fact that the judge arbitrarily decides this reminds me of that case where no actual legal text was cited. I can't remember which case it was. It was some months ago. It was back before the election really geared up, actually. And I believe it was gun control related, and the judge issues a sweeping order without even citing any legal sort of framework under which the decision was made. We've seen this happen more and more. The judiciary has grown out of control, unfortunately, at this point. A lot of people worry about imperialistic presidents. So, president who takes too much power under themselves. Bush was labeled this way. Obama, by his detractors as well. Although sometimes he was basically a do-nothing president. An imperial president is one that makes a lot of unilateral decisions and sort of leans on Congress and overrides things, sometimes associated with warmongering. In Trump's case, that's not the case. But it certainly was for W. So I would agree with the moniker for him, especially. But you also can have imperialistic courts. What's happened is that a bunch of left-leaning individuals are going before courts that they know are going to challenge Trump, going to find against him by default because they're politically partisan, federal courts and so forth. The DA is petitioning them and try to cock block him basically on messing with the system as it is and fixing some of the screw-ups of the prior administration. They've turned to lawfare. By the way, this is a desperate move. Under normal circumstances, they would prefer to use the legislative process and state courts. Instead, they've pivoted to using the sympathetic federal courts that are at their disposal. And I guarantee this is coordinated too, because you notice that most of these cases are being filed in areas where the district attorney and the federal courts align ideologically, been appointed by the same particular political mentality, have the same particular political mentality, and the outcome is effectively preconceived. This forces the Supreme Court of the United States possibly to step in. What they're trying to do is force Trump into an unwinnable position. This is their grand chessboard move. They're using the judiciary. If Trump does not challenge their moves, he gets bogged down. He gets prevented from doing the things he needs to do to reform the system according to his populistic will. If he does challenge them and he wins, if he loses, well then, it all goes up in smoke. And that's entirely possible based on Amy Coney Barrett's behavior and John Roberts' behavior, especially, by the way. If he wins, liberals get to complain and say, well, the activistic Supreme Court has sided with Trump because he appointed a bunch of justices. It's formulaic. They're trying to give him a checkmate. Will they be successful? I do not believe so. I believe that in the end, he will prevail even in the lower courts, generally speaking. Legal decisions can be countermanded by other courts. There's a reason why the Democrats are trying to appeal to courts just below the Supreme Court. They're doing that for a reason. That way, the only challenge you can make is with the Supreme Court. Some of these will be successfully challenged, some of them unsuccessfully challenged, and some won't be challenged at all. This also, by the way, did happen to Joe Biden in full admission. Now, of course, based on his particular political mentality, I would say that the challenges to his regime's decisions were generally justified. I don't see that this one is particularly justified since it doesn't even involve government bureau, but Chutkan found a way, of course. The Democrats found a way. They're trying to block Doge because it's been so successful, more than anything else. It's literally all this is about. It's because it's a successful culling of government bureaucracy. With Biden, it was more like, hey, I'm going to make aid to certain businesses, to farmers, restaurants, and so forth, conditional based on the color of your skin. You could not have a weaker and more pathetic legal argument than that. I'm pretty sure that's unconstitutional for the federal government to do. Biden still tried it out. It was posturing. He knew that the cases would lose anyway, but he was posturing in order to try to get reelected. I think up towards the end, he still seriously considered himself a potential contender for reelection, which shows his dementia. By the way, we haven't seen much of old Joe lately. I'm assuming that he's out biking right now. More power to him. As long as you're going biking and hiking and swimming around in the ocean and slumming around drinking margaritas and stuff like that with Barack, you're not doing any damage to the United States. So, basically your post-presidency is already an improvement on the presidency. Go ahead and relax. There's no reason to bother prosecuting him anyway because, if you gave him a life sentence, that sentence is basically like 6 months in jail probably anyway. So don't bother. Don't waste the taxpayers' money. Let this particular one off the hook, I would say. He's ancient as the sands of time and quite clearly deteriorating before our eyes anytime he's seen in public at all. I have a feeling that Jill is taking good care of him, making sure he gets his prune smoothie. By the way, prune juice, criminally underrated. Comes with an unintended side effect. Well, usually an intended one. Still tasty, though. I like prunes. What can I say? I'm a weird one. So Chutkan is now attacking Doge. Unable to attack Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is now President of the United States, Judge Chutkan has decided to go with the Silver Award and go after Elon Musk. What legal reasoning is behind it escapes me, because there is none. And it will escape you, too, if you're of sound mind. If you're capable of making your own rational legal decisions, then you probably disagree with Chutkan's. The whole point is just lawfare. Bog things down, make them as slow and laborious and legally intense as possible, and try to fight back against the Trump administration because Orange Man down. That's literally all this fucking shit is about. That's about all. Peace out.